Max Kellerman, joined by Brett Okamoto, who is in Houston awaiting the interim heavyweight title fight. I'll be joining you there tomorrow. So I got to tell you, Brett, I wasn't scheduled to be out there. I have to be there. This is a fight you got to, especially if Gane wins, there's a new force really emergent, I would say. And for that reason, those kind of moments in sports, like when something becomes a reality, this guy might be favored to beat Ngannou. I think you got to be there. Your thoughts on the fight?
I think you're spot on, and you want to give Derrick Lewis his due, of course, because we're in his hometown. This guy has the most knockouts in UFC history, Max. I think that flies well under the radar. I mean, Derrick Lewis is a guy who has really kind of not gotten his due. He's sort of been a fan favorite, but people haven't really thought of him as this guy who could hold a UFC championship. So for him to be here in his hometown, you got to make mention of that. But Ciryl Gane is
by the way, Brett, he's beaten, it's the worst fight you've ever seen. And Ngannou's coming off the Stipe loss, and he didn't want to take any risks against a guy who can counter with heavy hands. But he's beaten the champ. He already has a win against the champ.
He does. I think you're right to bring it up. However, I don't think any of us in the sport really, I don't want to say we don't count it, but we don't even think about it because It's almost like the fight didn't happen because there was no fight. They didn't throw any punches.
Right. It's the worst fight you ever want to see.
There were reasons for that. Francis was coming off of a loss to Stipe, so he was gun shy. Derrick Lewis said that he was not in great shape for that one, and they just got into a game of staring contest. You've seen that happen in combat sports all the time. So, but yes, he does have a win over Francis Ngannou. But to circle back to your original point about Ciryl Gane is a minus 340 favorite. The last time I looked, he is a heavy favorite to win this fight, and the reason is because he doesn't move like a heavyweight, Max. He moves like a middleweight. He's got a high fight IQ. He's received a little bit of criticism because sometimes his fights aren't always, he doesn't end them in the way that we want to see heavyweight finishes. He's not a Francis Ngannou, he's not a Derrick Lewis, but that could be why he's a terrible matchup for guys like Francis Ngannou and Derrick Lewis. So I completely agree with you. I think this fight is big because of what it could lead to, and what it could lead to is a France versus France/Cameroon fight, and Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane, which, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of this, they are former teammates. They have actually trained with one another before. So there's all kinds of storylines if that fight were to happen next year.
It's amazing because the heavyweight division in the UFC has never been the glamour division, really. It's not. It used to be the light heavies, and then different fighters made different weight divisions glamorous, and you thought maybe Brock Lesnar could do something to break through to the mainstream, but he wasn't there long enough. He wasn't good enough to stay on top for a long time. But when I look at this division now, Brett, you have John Jones still lurking out there, right? Stipe waiting in the wings going, wait, hold on. Why aren't I getting a third fight with Ngannou? I beat him. He beat me. What's up? Ngannou saying I'd like to fight John Jones, right? But now the interim title being fought between Gane and Lewis. And it even seems to me, based on suddenly like you have all these interesting fights and matchups with guys who could emerge as big stars. It seems to me, I want to get back to the odds, how heavy a favorite Gane is, right? It seems to me part of that's wishful thinking on the part of MMA fans in the sense that you want Gane to win because he's undefeated, because there seems to be higher upside, because he's more fluid and dynamic, because as you said, he doesn't wait around waiting for something to happen. He'll make something happen, right? So that's what captures the imagination. And I think some wish casting there is influencing the odds. Lewis is a tall order. He's a tough guy to beat, especially if you're aggressive because he's going to catch it coming in.
Yeah, I would say that I don't think the MMA community really necessarily wants Gane to win because the MMA community loves Derrick Lewis. I mean, they really love the guy. He's humble. I was talking to him today, and he was saying that if he wins this fight, it would be like the finish of a documentary on him. That he's come from he was never supposed to make it in life, let alone in the UFC, and to be potentially a UFC champion. So I think that the sport doesn't. I don't think that they necessarily care in that regard of like they want Gane to win because they want to set up that fight. No one. The sport as a whole is not really super talking about yet Ciryl Gane versus Francis Ngannou, but they will. If Gane goes out and looks good against Derrick Lewis, and then we start to talk about the relationship between those two and that they did train together, that they were in Paris, and then Francis left that team. He decided to leave that team. They were the ones that brought him up, and then he didn't win the championship actually for that team. He won it for Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. I think that I wouldn't call it bad blood, but there's emotions, there's tensions there.
There's a story there.
And so there is a great story for that. But and then also to your point about the heavyweight division, it's true, man. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that the heavyweight division is necessarily in this better place yet, but it's moving in this direction where, and I'll keep this short, but for years, it was basically dominated by the same names, but those names were getting older, Max. Like those names were getting old to the point that they're not even here anymore. The Junior Dos Santos, the Cain Velasquez, the Alistair Overeems, all of those guys are gone. They're no longer in the UFC. And so now it's like, who's going to take that torch? I think the UFC is very lucky that's got Francis Ngannou, who is super exciting, and it's got John Jones moving
and who
up,
got rid of those guys, Brett, who got rid of some of those old guys quickly, right? Like before the Stipe rematch, and then also seemed to improve heading into the Stipe rematch. I don't know. There are different divisions where you think about the number of interesting storylines and fights and matchups that you can make, and heavyweight, to me, is, as you said, it's on the precipice of being there. The interesting thing about this fight is Ngannou was so impressive against Stipe in the rematch, and he's so big and strong, right? And this is a fight between one guy who has beaten Ngannou and another guy who's be favored to do so, probably, right? Like if Ngannou fought Gane right now, who would be the favorite, do you think?
I think Ngannou would be a small favorite just because,
Maybe.
I mean, you just can't put a price on him just running across the cage and knocking people out right now. I mean, it's barely taken him a minute to beat like three of these guys in a row, you know? So I think you got to make him the favorite, but I'll tell you what, the fact that Ciryl is familiar with him, that he's tasted that power. So it's not, because you know this in combat sports, if you've never tasted the guy's power and you've seen his highlight reel, it's in your back of your head, right? You're starting to think of this guy's superhuman. This guy's been in the gym with Francis Ngannou. He's humanized him in that way. So that's a huge advantage for him. And then you add on top of it that he is just technical, man. He is very, very technical. And Francis Ngannou, as good as he is, he still will throw caution to the wind, technique to the wind to just land the huge power. And he's fast and he's strong and he can do it. But with a guy who's got that much technique, man, it'd be a very, very interesting fight.
And Ngannou, unlike just like a big bully who then gets shown a lesson, right? And then you hear it so much before a rematch. Oh, he's really worked on his game. It's like, it's the same thing again, right? But no, Ngannou really did improve. When the bully has the character to come back, get better, face down his demons, and beat the guy who beat him, that's really something. Like, that makes Ngannou dangerous. I know. I think, like, it just seems to me smart money is on Gane. How if he were to fight Ngannou, and I'm with you though. I don't know who. I don't know anyone beats Ngannou right now at this moment. Derrick Lewis, how does he win this fight?
How does Derrick Lewis win this fight this weekend?
Yep.
That monster right hand, Max. And it almost sounds like I'm discrediting him a little bit, but I'm not. I mean, that's how this guy wins fights, and he will win fights that it looks like he's out of. You know, he'll be taking damage to the body. He'll be in the third round of a fight that he's losing, and he looks tired. And you're just like, well, Derrick Lewis, good on him, man. He made it this far. He's got a lot of wins, but he's not going to be able to win tonight. He's not going to beat this guy. He's not going to get the title fight. You know, he's not going to be a champion. And then he's proven us wrong time and time again. Now, will he prove us wrong to the point of becoming a UFC champion? The odds are still very much against him, as you have seen. The odds are against him this weekend, and he knows that. I mean, he said it numerous times in all of his interviews. He said it to me today. No one ever believes in him. No one thinks he can win. So he's used to that role. He's used to the underdog role. I think that he is facing a lot of pressure this weekend, trying to put that feather in his cap of winning an interim championship and do it in his hometown. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. But how does he win? He lands that big right hand, because this is the heavyweight division. He can put guys away.
And he's in against an aggressive guy. And he's in against an aggressive guy.
Where he has extended success. It is going to be a fight where he finds that
one moment
of success and then puts him out.
I'm telling you, I hear what you're saying, how he's the sentimental favorite. He's in his hometown. But I think this is true across sports, not just combat sports. When there's someone on the scene who people believe can be next level, special, there's a tendency, especially if they're undefeated, there's a tendency to, I think, want to see that happen because it captures the imagination differently. I think that's where Gane is now. I think this is a really dangerous fight. Before we get out of here, Strickland and Grant, what'd you think?
Strickland and the main event last weekend?
Yep.
Yeah. Sean Strickland and Uriah Hall, it was.
I said, what did I say? Grant? I said, yeah, I meant Uriah Hall. Sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry, yeah.
Uriah Hall, it was a chance for him to live up to a potential that we've been talking about for like 6 years, Max. I mean, when this guy was on The Ultimate Fighter and he was landing spinning head kick knockouts, and we're just like, how good could this guy be? And then, fair or not, he got a tag on him that was, well, it's the mental side. It's the mental side. He can't figure it out. He's not a mean enough guy. He's not a confident enough guy. He went and changed camps a few years back, and he got a really solid connection with his coach. And we were saying, like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is when Uriah Hall lives up to all of his potential. And then he just went out and lost every single round to Sean Strickland. It was a big night for Sean Strickland, and unfortunately, man, it is unfortunate because I've always loved Uriah Hall's potential. I've always liked his personality. I've loved him as a competitor and as a human being. But I think that narrative of, is Uriah Hall going to live up and be this monster? He's just not. He's not going to be that guy, not after what we saw on Saturday.
Yeah, Strickland was throwing straighter, crisper shots and was, with two strikers, was dominating, was eventually taking him down and stuff, and was, I thought, a very, very impressive. Like, you're going on about Uriah Hall and the disappointment, but Strickland's on a roll.
And he's got a fight already. He's fighting Luke Rockhold, hopefully in New York. Hopefully that event will take place in New York, and that's a big fight for him, man. That is a big, big fight because Luke Rockhold's a former champion, former Strikeforce champion. He used to be on my pound-for-pound list, like top 3. So that is a big, big fight for Sean Strickland, and he's gaining some serious momentum.
Brett Okamoto, ladies and gentlemen. Always love talking to you, brother. I'll see you tomorrow.
Soon,
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.